Welcome everyone. Today we are joined by New York City Cyber Command with New York City Emergency Management here on a cybersecurity and emergency preparedness webinar. Some housekeeping rules. First, please save all your questions till the end. We'll have a dedicated portion of this presentation for questions, and we'll be able to answer all your questions if you guys have any towards the end of this webinar. And if you want to email us, you can also email us at readyny@oem.nyc.gov. Again, today we're joined by NYC Cyber Command to really give us a brief and comprehensive preparedness webinar on cybersecurity. And joining us in Cyber Command is Clint Mixon. Clint Mixon. He is the senior advisor for New York City Cyber Command. Previously, he is a retired colonel for the Air Force, leading and commanding various divisions and groups while serving his time in the military. And right now, he is as an instructor and a lecturer at various different universities, such as Syracuse University, NYU, and the Postgraduate Naval School. So today we're joined by an expert and a very good person to listen to in terms of anything cybersecurity for us and the family. And Clint, you have the floor if you are here. Hopefully you're here, and we'll begin whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for the very kind introduction. Welcome everybody to this afternoon's chat. I will go through the slides, and as Kevin said, please do not hesitate to ask questions. As you'll see as we go through the slide deck, there are going to be links. Kevin has kindly agreed that he will post most of those links in the chat window as we go along, so that you don't have to try and type it in and do that, and you can access it in real time as we go through the briefing. I do have to give a standard disclosure up front. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this presentation belong solely to the author, that's myself, and are not necessarily the views or opinions of New York City or New York City Cyber Command, and should not be viewed as personalized cybersecurity advice. Nothing expressed or implied in the presentation constitutes an endorsement of any product or service by New York City or New York City Cyber Command. So after that paid advertisement, we are good to go. All right, we'll go ahead and Kevin to the next slide, please. So big picture, what should you take from this talk? You have to protect yourself. So as much as the New York City government and New York City Cyber Command and the federal government and all those resources to include New York State are helping you and providing resources, at the end of the day, you have to take action yourself to protect yourself. And so hopefully with this talk, you'll be able to find resources easily and understand why you should use certain resources and in what ways you should use those. We do have resources, so two of these are right here on this slide, as you can see. So we have an application that you can download to your mobile devices at HTTPS Secure NYC. That will allow you to download that application, and we'll talk a little bit about that more later, but that is a great resource and it is completely free. In addition to that, we do have a public-facing webpage, and as you can see, based on COVID-19 and the challenges that everyone is facing, we provided some information there on how you might better secure yourself or things to be aware of during the pandemic as cyber malicious actors continue to try and prey upon all of us during this time where we are all under additional stress due to the ongoing pandemic. In addition to that, I do want to highlight that many of the resources are out there, and we always talk about and see spam emails and other kinds of emails offering cybersecurity services or offering information about data breaches and those kind of things. Number one advice on that is that be very suspect of those. Those are typically, not always, but those are typically linked to some kind of malicious actor or campaign that is actively trying to take advantage of good citizens like yourselves. However, there are legitimate sources on the web, and we will be highlighting those as we go through. And I highlighted as well right now, New York City has information that is free and available to you at your time. Next slide, please, Kevin. So just a little bit about us. Most of you may not have heard about New York City Cyber Command before. We are a relatively new organization. We were created through an executive order in 2017. And just this September, the City Council unanimously added our organization to the city charter. So we are now an officially chartered organization for the City of New York. We have one mission in two parts. You can see our vision and mission here, but as our head of agency always likes to talk about, he talks about our mission in two parts. That first being an enterprise mission where we are actively defending the city's systems that deliver the critical services that New Yorkers rely on every day. Second part of our function is actually what brings me to you today, and that is we have a public facing mission to help all of our residents become safer in their digital lives and to do so in ways that reflect their values. And so we do really try to work on both of those at the same time. And that is a very large ask for an organization that is as new and as small as we are at this time in our history. Next slide, please, Kevin. So what are we talking about when we talk about personal cybersecurity? So when we talk about personal cybersecurity, it covers all of these things. So it covers everything from any of you who may have bought things to make a connected home, such as Nest thermometers or Ring doorbells, or any of those other kinds of things. It includes that nice watch that you have that connects to your cell phone, the lovely speakers that now connect you directly to the internet with voice, your entertainment and gaming systems, whether they be the standalones or your desktops or laptops, or your TV that is now smart and connects to the internet and brings you streaming services, and your cell phone and all of those kind of things as well. So we're really covering the entire gambit of things that most people come in contact with or operate on a daily basis. So that's what we're going to be covering here. And most of these security products and discussions are will apply to all of these. So what is this thing called the internet, and how do I get to it, or how does it get to me? And so this picture is a very simple wire diagram. It may be well known to a lot of you, but just to make sure that we're all on the same sheet of music, when I talk about different pieces, I may make sure that everybody understands what I'm referencing in the terms I'm using. Because in this industry of cyber, there are a lot of terms that are used by a lot of different people. So all those devices that we just showed in the last picture at the very bottom of this slide, they all connect to your router. That router may be one that you own, or you might lease/rent from your ISP, that being your internet service provider. But along with that, in probably 99% of the cases, that router is connected to a modem that you do rent from the internet service provider. Those internet service providers, those are just some of the names. There are other smaller companies that are small independents that are in the marketplace. And so in no way am I talking ill of those, but this is just kind of representative of those internet service providers. They then actually take your request, your desire to reach out to the larger magical internet cloud, and act as your conveyance into that area and that ecosystem. So that's how it all works in a very high level general basis. And then we'll go on and we'll keep showing you more pictures so we're all clear on where we're starting. So this is yet another picture that shows the wiring diagram of what most of that looks like. Most of you have done this probably multiple occasions, resetting modems, resetting routers. But in general, you have your device, the old-fashioned desktop is shown here, connecting to a router that could be wirelessly or could be wired. And then you're connecting to a modem with that router to actually get that, which connects out to the actual broader internet. The cables and wires here are just general. They could be coax cables. They could be the standard RJ45 cables or any of these other type of things. But just in general, this is what we're talking about. Next slide. And most likely it looks something like this: a gobble of wires sitting in a corner somewhere in your house with power cables and everything else connected to it. And that's in general what a home internet system looks like. Slide, please. So I start with the router because this is your first line of defense, and the thing that if I am a bad actor, if I own this device or get control of this device, then I own everything that's connected to it. And that is because once you're connected to your home network, most of us have our settings for our devices that I showed in the original picture open to completely trust what's coming from that router, and we don't do authentication and investigation of the communications coming out of that router. So if I can own your router, then that is something that is actually really bad for you, because all of your comms are going to be coming through that. So most of them have a router interface. I just showed Netgear, Genie, TP-Link has one as well. Many of the brands have created a graphical user interface for you to use to interact with your router. So you have click buttons and tabs and those kind of things to do this and set it up correctly. If you have this, the biggest things that I'll talk about is don't allow these settings to be changed via remote login. Okay, you want to keep your router configured such that whoever's doing it is hardwired, in other words, physically connected to your actual router, because doing it remotely or allowing that remote operation is ways that a malicious actor could get into your device. The other big thing and the most important thing for almost anything that we talk about in this entire talk is always change that administrator login and password. Everything comes out of the box with the ability to lock these systems down or secure them with a login and password. And the vast majority of consumers continue to leave admin as their admin login and password, or admin as their password. So it's not really hard for a malicious actor to actually do something to get in if you've, one, left the remote access turned on, and two, you haven't changed these login and passwords. The good news is if you've bought a router within the last 2 years, many of them now are coming with at least a randomized password already set. So the vendors are trying to help us as consumers, but they're still leaving the admin login as admin. The other big piece is shut off your what's called an SSID. So in all these settings, you're going to find something that says that, and that's the service set identifier. What that is what you and I commonly know as 23 West Broad Apartment 7C network, or whatever you've named your local Wi-Fi connection that you're running in your house, so you can differentiate it from whatever other identifiers that are out there being broadcast by your neighbor's routers. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is actually to shut off that broadcast. That broadcast is not required for your device to actually be able to connect. What that identifier is allowing is for all of the people around you to see that you have a Wi-Fi connection, and they can also see in many cases if you've secured it, if you haven't secured it, which is another thing we'll talk about here in just a minute. The big picture is I've given this type of discussion with lots of different civic groups and people, and in the end, I typically get a reply from someone in the audience who sends back a note and says, "Thank you very much for letting me know this," because the piggybacking that's shown in the bottom right-hand corner occurs on a regular basis. I've had several people contact me afterwards and go, "How did you know that my neighbor's kid was going to come knock on my door and say, oh, by the way, did your internet have a problem yesterday? Because all of a sudden we have internet problems." And so the issue here is they've actually been piggybacking off of your internet service. And while they may not be running up charges or trying to hack into your home bank accounts and those kind of things, what they are doing is stealing your bandwidth, which so many of us rely on as we work from home or as we're trying to stream things in the evening to relax. So please do shut off that broadcaster. I will say this, before you do it or after you do it, realize you're going to have to tell your devices to join that network despite that identifier not being broadcast. And that's okay. The devices can still connect and they don't need that identifier. That's just for us humans to be able to know what we're connected to. We talked about changing the password for the network, and then we'll also talk about, as I said, some other settings that you need to do to secure your router. Okay, next slide. This is what it looks like on the back of many of the devices. Like I said, this is an older type of label that you would see on a router. Many of them, like I said, the good news is they still have the username as admin, but they have changed, and they're trying to help us by actually giving us a randomized password out of the box. There's no issue using that. That password's not tracked. That password is not kept anywhere. So feel free if you want to use that randomized password, but it is definitely not something that you would ever want to post anywhere or hand out or just have it posted around your house or anything. The other piece is that if you are a person who has company come over on a frequent basis, or people that come in, or you're a person who's really into your connected house, you would want to differentiate between your network where you're doing your home banking and your work and those things from the network that those individuals are logging into. And that's because the differentiation and what we call in the actual business network segmentation is really important to protect you from things that may happen because of their device not being secured or maybe being infected, and that won't transition over into your home network. It's typically very easy, just like I said in the graphical user interface, the Netgear, Genie, or the D-Link, or any of the other ones have this thing. You'll see it is called a guest zone. Some of them call it an Arlo network. That's just a type of networking that's used for these smart IoT devices. And you can very easily set it up. You can set up the SSID to, hey, home guest network, and just leave it at that, and then give it its own password that's randomized and is not one of your passwords that you use for anything else internal to your home network where you do business or you take care of your home finances. So we talked about this, just showing you once again a picture about whether that remote access is what you want to shut here off, as you do not want to allow this to happen. So you want that box unchecked as is shown here. You want to have that router only allow changes through wired connections. Okay, slide. VPNs. VPNs, a lot of people have heard about VPNs. They understand in general what a VPN is. Some people just do what their office or their business tells them to do, which is use a VPN to connect to internal resources from their company or their business. But the big picture is that you yourself as a consumer and as a general civilian person should use a VPN anytime you're really doing things that you want to make sure are secure, okay? And what that means is that it allows your traffic to be secured between yourself and the internet, okay? And just as the picture shows, your traffic goes back and forth between you and the internet, but hackers and bad malicious actors are going to try to get into that traffic. But what the VPN does is that it actually encrypts your traffic between your device and the internet, and therefore they can't see what's going on, and that makes it really difficult for them to actually be able to do anything. Big picture, the video or the link that Kevin just so kindly put in the chat is a nice little quick video. It is Australian. It's actually one of the best videos I could find when I was preparing this presentation on the basics of a VPN and how it works. So please forgive me the accents, but it is understandable. If you choose to buy a VPN, the article from PC Mag that's linked there is a good article on what VPNs are, what they do, which ones are best for different applications, and what their costs are. There are several free options, and they will talk about those free options in those articles. There are limitations as to what you get with the free VPNs, but by and large, any VPN usage makes you more secure and keeps your data more protected. Slide, please. The other big thing is unfortunately, phishing continues to be the #1 cybersecurity issue for everybody. This is not just for us in our homes and our families, but this is also a huge issue for every business, corporation, and government around the world. Everybody would love to think that we've all gotten smarter and better on phishing, but the issue is that they really, really have gotten good on creating emails that look so authentic that unless you spend lots of time investigating the actual link and everything else, it's going to be hard to differentiate it from real authentic traffic. But there are ways, and so those ways are shown in these two different pages here. One is from Jigsaw. It's a portion of Google. That's the phishing quiz there on the left. It's a fun 3-minute quiz where they talk about phishing and explain it, and then they give you a couple of examples and ask you to see if you can spot the fish so that you don't get hooked. On the right is one by OpenDNS. It's another company that's very fervent about trying to get people to make sure that they are checking their emails and not clicking on links and getting phished. This one is really tough. There's probably, I think the last time I took it, they had 12 examples that you had to go through to complete the entire quiz. At the conclusion of those 12, it shows you what you got right and what you got wrong with an explanation. So it's a really good, short, quick educational tool. It takes less than 5 minutes to go through. And the funniest thing about it is most cybersecurity experts won't even get a perfect score. And that is because, like I said before, some of these malicious actors have gotten so very good at creating very authentic looking emails that unless you pore over the web or pore over that email for an extended amount of time, you're probably going to at least open the email. Most cybersecurity specialists, though, will typically spot it as soon as they open it and go, yep, not doing anything else, not clicking on anything. So please do avail yourself of these free services and take a minute to help yourself learn to protect yourself. Slide, please. The mobile device, we all have them. In many cases, we have multiples of them. Some people have a business phone and their personal phone. Some people have their own personal phone and then their own personal business phone. And that's all great. The issue is that that opens us up to lots of dangerous people. So things that we can do to help. The number one thing that I would like to recommend is please lock your device. I know it can be annoying. You're standing there, your phone's ringing, you want to get to it, and now you have to enter that PIN code or that password or that shape or that whatever. The biggest issue though is please don't let that small inconvenience keep you from locking your device. If you drop your device, leave it on the subway, somebody steals it, at least they only have the device and they can't just randomly figure out how to get into your device. So do that, and maybe, just maybe, you can get to your website, your places, find your device, which is both an Android and an Apple thing at this point, and find the device, or potentially even wipe it. So please set that PIN or password on that lock screen and keep your devices locked. Also, just because it's mobile, it doesn't make it any different. You still need to back up your data and secure your data. As far as apps, get those only from those authorized locations. Okay, so those are shown in the bottom right. Doesn't matter if you're Android or Apple, they both have stores where you can get your latest Mahjong, you can get your latest contact resource manager, you can get your latest whatever app, but please do only install apps from those trusted sources. There have been multiple cases where applications have been installed that were third party that have created and caused real turmoil for people in their lives. Also, when you do install those apps, read through the permissions that you're granting. Many of these applications ask for permissions that you just don't want to give. There is no reason that your game of solitaire needs to see your contact list other than they want to take that contact list from your device and sell it. They want to sell your friends' phone numbers, they want to sell their addresses, and if you install that application and you allow that contact information to be shared with that application, that's exactly what's happening. It is hard sometimes to find an app that you want to use that doesn't have some kind of permission that you really need to think hard about before you allow it to be given. So do that in both those ways. The other big piece is keep those applications, and we'll talk more about this on your laptops and desktops, but keep those applications on your smartphone up to date. Okay, just go in there and turn on the auto updates and leave it turned on. Okay, don't even say no download and let me determine when they're gonna actually update. Nope, most of the devices now, if not all of them, have a way for you to schedule that outside of your normal use hours, schedule it in the middle of the night, and all of those kind of things. So please do just turn on those auto updates and leave them running. I agree with you, Angela, they are overly aggressive with permission requests. I cannot overemphasize that. You do not have to accept it. Just go find some other app that's not asking for all those permissions. Open Wi-Fi networks, we talked about that. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit more about what you can do to protect yourself, and report that stolen smartphone to your carrier. So whoever your contract is with your cell phone provider, you want to report it to them. If you've got things like Google Pay or Apple Pay installed on it, you want to inform or go and check with that bank account or that credit card that you got loaded into that system. And then you most definitely want to report it if it's a business phone or a company-owned phone to your cybersecurity professionals at your business or company that device has been stolen, and file a report with the cops for that. Yep, there you have it. The other big piece here is going back to that, connecting to free Wi-Fi's and open Wi-Fi's. I know a lot of people really don't want to use that data, or their plan doesn't have a lot of data included, and I completely understand that. So because of that, we NYC3 have partnered with a security vendor to offer you NYC Secure. And so what this application does, as I said, free to download, put this on your device, let it run, keep it running. And what it does is every time you go to connect to a free Wi-Fi, it's going to do some threat detecting for you. Okay, so it's going to look at that Wi-Fi connection. It's going to start looking to see if it's been compromised. It's going to look if it's got any connections to any kind of weird websites and all of those kind of things. And so feel free, like I said, go use this, download it, and it will help you protect yourself when you're connecting to those free Wi-Fis. Other pieces is back up your data frequently. Can't overemphasize this enough. These are the kind of things that aren't protecting you from getting anything on your device, but this is what you need to have as your last line of defense. In other words, should your device, be it a cell phone or laptop or anything, get infected, where your data is locked or encrypted, or you're getting those nasty ransomware type notifications, you need to not be so upset because you've been actively backing up your data to one of these backup services. You can just use something as simple as your Google Drive or your Apple iDrive and do it that way to back up your data, but these automate the process and they do it much easier and much simpler. These are pay for services. I've not seen any good free backup services other than you being your own backup specialist and backing yourself up and backing all your data up. One technique is to pick a couple of days throughout the year to do your backups. So a good one is tax day. We all know when tax day is. It happens all the time. And so on the 15th of April, go ahead and say, I filed my taxes and I backed up my data. And then another good one would be pick a holiday weekend that you may have off during the fall. So a Thanksgiving, a Halloween, a Christmas, and do it twice a year kind of thing to make sure that your data is in fact backed up and safe. Surf securely. This one is a no-brainer in my opinion. One of the best things you can do for yourself is look at the HTTP versus HTTPS. Yep, and Jennifer, that's a good one as well to do. Hey, just base it on the time change when we go back and forth. So that's the last slide. But HTTPS, this is very simple. When you go to a website, look at the actual URL at the top. HTTP is the original. That's what those of us who didn't have the internet when we were children but grew into the internet, that's the only thing we had. S is actually means security. Okay, so that is surfing safely, no sharks around, no bad guys, no bad people out there doing those kind of things to you. So please do check your websites. If there's a website that you actively go to on a regular basis that doesn't have HTTPS, scroll all the way down to the bottom of that web page where they probably have a contact us and say, hey, could you really help all of us out to be more secure? Any chance that you could get an HTTPS address? It requires those individuals running those websites to do a couple of security actions to make that website safe, but it's not overly cumbersome. And the vast majority of websites have been transitioning to this. I'm not sure there's probably any bank out there that doesn't have HTTPS at this point. So please do check that for security and keep yourself safe. Slide. Updates are your friend. I talked about this already with your cell phone on those applications. The same goes for that home computer. If you're a Windows person like myself, having those updates on there every time the patches come out, that's called Patch Tuesday. For those of us in the industry, happens every month on the first Tuesday of the month. Microsoft pushes an update. You don't need to set your calendar. You can just remember that, or you can just go into the settings as normal here where they've called out the update files and say update automatically, and then set your hours for it to reboot so that you get all those lovely updates that you want for both security and features. Apple does much the same thing. I have a couple of Apple products, and for those, it's the same thing. You can go into a very simple settings page and turn on automatic updates. These patches are important. I can't overemphasize. Over 80% of all hacks that occur worldwide occur on systems where there were patches to prevent the hack that had not been installed. Okay, so that means if you patch your system, you're better than 80% of all the people out there that eventually will get hacked. So doing this one simple thing moves you from the masses to the protected few. So please, please, please do these updates, turn them on automatically and leave them. The other ones are a little more difficult. The software, you're going to have to go in and actively update those in some cases. Some software, unfortunately, doesn't do automatic updates. And the BIOSes and those kind of things, the deeper portions of your computer, you're going to have to turn those on, or you're going to check with your vendor. Some of the vendors have made this quite easy where they've created an update application that runs on the device in real time. And once again, you can set that to update. Be careful when updating your BIOS because that can actually lock your computer. So make sure your computer is in a very stable environment with power and do that update. Preventing malware, we talked about that. Use newer browsers, okay? There's a lot of old browsers out there. There's a lot of little bespoke ones. I'm not saying that any of these are better than any others, but Chrome, Firefox, and Edge have got a lot of very good security features. Okay, they also have tracking features. That's a whole different talk for us to discuss about privacy and those kind of things. But you can go in there and turn most of those settings off. But the newer browsers are far more secure and have good features in them to protect you from ending up in bad places. Pay attention to those hyperlinks. Okay, people crack me up all the time. They go, hey, I got this little link over here. It says bit.ly. Like, why are you sending me to an Italian website? Or why are you sending me to this, whatever, and that kind of stuff. That's just a shortened URL. They're very common because when you see things like, as under the picture here, virus detected, try typing all that out while I'm talking. That can be hard. So you'll just put in a little shortened URL, but you can check those before you visit them by using that checkshorturl.com, and it'll tell you where it's actually going to take you to. Run that update and antivirus software. There are free versions out there, and make sure that you've got that running all the time on your devices. Slide please. If, unfortunately, you do all of these things and you still end up with bad things on your devices, there are ways to get rid of them. Most commonly, there are these malware removal tools. All of them have free versions of some sort that will do the basics. Okay, Microsoft, if you're a Windows person, that happens through their normal patch updates. They have a Microsoft security malware removal tool that, when launched on Patch Tuesday, will go through and check your system for malware, and it will remove it before installing that update from Patch Tuesday. If it doesn't happen there, or if you're not a Windows person and you're running Linux or you're running anything else, these other services have free versions: Malwarebytes, Adware, Bitdefender, and Avast. Those are all legitimate, good malware removal tools. If you don't trust me, then trust lifewire.com, a reputable resource online for those of us out there surfing the internet for good cybersecurity practices and tools. And firewall, first line of defense. Okay, this is a little more in depth. You do need to go in and actually find your firewall. This is a picture of the Windows Security Essentials firewall settings, turning on that home or private work networks or public networks. If you've rebooted your device or restarted, or when you bought that new device, many times this will come up, or when you connect to a new network that your computer doesn't recognize, this will come up. And it asks you a very simple question: would you like this device to be discoverable on this network by other devices? Even in my own home, I turn that off at all times. Why? Because once again, that segmentation is occurring where if some other device in my network gets compromised, then each device is only going to go down by itself. At least that's the theory, and it helps to have that separation turned on, and the firewall can protect you against most things. Not anything is foolproof, but all of these things are all trying to build those walls to protect yourself. Other things that will have firewalls are going to be any of those antiviruses. Most of them now come with firewalls that you definitely want to turn on and operate. The biggest thing that's out there for all of us today is that Internet of Things. We see it everywhere. It's in the headlines: IoT this, IoT that. What do we mean by IoT? We mean a lot of those things that we talked about. You know, we're connecting your blender to the internet now. We're connecting your refrigerator where it shops for you. We're connecting your watch. We're connecting your mobile gaming platform. We're connecting your fans in your house. Your TV is connected. That is that Internet of Things. These particular items are very scary in most cases from a cybersecurity perspective, but they are getting better. Why they are scary to a person like myself is many of them, when they first came out, which a lot of consumers still have, didn't even have login and password basic security built into them. And so a lot of those devices just connect to anything that's out there, and they constantly transmit information that you might not really want everybody on the internet to see or be able to get to. So good news is the newer items that are out there do have logins and passwords. And so it's just like your router. Go in that interface, swap out that login, change it from admin, change it to something, and change that password so that it's not just the normal password that is so easily guessable by malicious actors. Disable all that WAN access, and as I talked about before, connect these devices to that guest network. Don't have them on the same network as you have your home computer and laptop. Segment that network at your home and keep those things out there, having fun on the internet, but away from your home finances and your very private files that you have on your desktop and laptops. Update the software. That can be hard in some cases, but most of the vendors, like I've said, have gotten much better on this, and they allow you to push them. The article down there from Krebs on Security, if you don't know him, he is a worldwide renowned individual on cybersecurity and personal cybersecurity. And he's got a running blog where he talks about all of the different cybersecurity aspects of which we're discussing today. Slide, please. Last one is use strong passwords. Okay. Everybody has a ton of accounts. Why? Because you have to have an account to order coffee. You have to have an account to pay your gas bill. You have to have an account to go to your bank. You have an account for your Gmail. You have an account for Amazon. Everybody's got passwords, passwords, passwords. So passwords are hard. No, don't make them hard. Use passphrases. Recent research on this has shown that strong passphrases, which are very simple sentences that you can easily remember, okay, but are of sufficient length, are just as hard to hack as the old password rules that we really used to push, okay? 28-ish character password, even of a sentence like that, of commonly known words, spelled the way that you are going to spell them. Those are zeros, not O's, right? Capitalizing certain letters in there creates a random enough pattern that even brute force hackers have a hard time cracking these things. If that's just too much, which for some people it is, and I have no problems with it, get yourself a password manager. Most of these offer some basic free capability. Up to 8 or 10 accounts in some cases can be loaded in with those that password or that password protection for free. So LastPass, Dashlane, and Keeper, those are all very good brands and do things. Once again, if you want the latest and the things that are out there, feel free to go to the link here, PC Mag, where it talks about which password systems out there and vendors of these password managers are the best today and what the drawbacks and benefits of each of them are. Multi-factor authentication. Most of you have probably had to deal with this in the recent past, and that's because it is the best practice going. Okay, passwords and logins are no longer sufficient to keep bad people out of our lives. So now we have to use this thing called multi-factor authentication, right? Most of us know this is something you know, so you still have to put in that password, something you are. It might be a fingerprint, it might be a key like a FIDO key or a UB key or any kind of other little thing that sends a signal to your device, right? By an application that says then you're verified. So we've added just another factor, right? So we just had password and login before. That was 2. Well, now we've got 3. And if you add in things like a lot of banks have at this point, where they talk about, hey, we're checking your IP address, we're checking your MAC ID, we don't recognize this device, we don't recognize this location. Those kind of checks are just more factors of authentication that are being done for you, the consumer, on their behalf. Okay, and so they're helping you be more secure. You should do your part to go ahead and enable that multi-factor authentication. The other way that most of us know this is if you're a big time online banker, most banks have gone to have us send you a one-time access code, right? And so they'll text you with a one-time code. Those are having issues with security, but they're still a lot better than not having a multi-factor authentication. So feel free to look this up on the internet. PC Mag's got great articles on this as well, and help yourself be more protected with multi-factor authentication. Everybody loves social media, except for this guy. You will not find me on any social media platform except for LinkedIn, and I begrudgingly did that when I was in my job search a year or so ago. The reason for it is there's a lot of personal information that people post on these, and to be honest with you, personal information is a way that a lot of hackers go after people. And that is because most of us are creatures of habit, and what we post online reflects who we are and what we are, and definitely gives away great clues as to what our passwords may be. So when you post that really lovely, picture of your kid in Central Park, and you say Johnny's having a great time in the leaves, and then there's a picture with him and his best friend Mutt, who is his friendly local dog, then guess what? More than likely, most of you have used your child's name or your pet's name in your password. And so now you've just given those malicious actors clues as to what might actually be in your password, and it helps them narrow down what they're trying to use to get into your accounts illegally. Okay? Beware of strangers when you get friend request, or you get connection request, or LinkedIn request, or Snapchat, whatever's. Be very wary of these people who are just contacting you out of the blue, even if they say, hey, we met at a coffee shop, I was introduced to you by Susan. Well, they may be unable to figure out that you had a friend named Susan, and now they're just connecting with you to try and get access to this information. Okay? All of these online social media platforms have privacy features. Facebook created a lot of these privacy features based on a lot of things that are going on. Wired has a great article about how to lock it down and protect yourself from people who may be surfing your Facebook account if you have that. Snapchat, Instagram, all of those, once again, have some of these settings. Please do take advantage of them if you are an active user of those types of social media things. The link on the right as well, the Stay Safe Online, is the most recent publication in 2019. It's a really good full presentation just on social media. So I only have one slide on it. They've got an entire set of slides talking about social media cybersecurity and how to do it and how to protect yourself fully. Slide, please. Identity monitoring. So once again, we're at the point where we're trying to protect ourselves from the harm that may have happened. So if somebody does get into our accounts, get into our devices, identity monitoring is that very back step that we have to protect ourselves. I've had identity monitoring on my accounts and my identification since 1998. And that is because, as Kevin has told you, I was a former member of the United States military. And in that role, I got a couple of letters from the organization that manages our security clearances in 1997 and again in 1998 saying that they had allowed my personal information to be sucked out into the internet by nefarious actors and those kind of things. And so as soon as that occurred, and every day since then, I have paid for identity theft protection. Many of you might be able to get some identity theft protection from your bank or your insurance. Please do avail yourself of those free services. If you are willing to, this is a great list and a great article that runs through all the different identity theft protection services out there that you can pay for with rates. There are often discounts that they do come holiday seasons. It's very interesting to a person like myself, but I actually see cybersecurity now as a gift being given for people on birthdays, on holidays, and those kind of things. Nothing like giving a nice identity theft protection voucher to your loved one for the next year and those kind of things. These are the ones that are out there. Feel free to look at that article and pick one that works for you. Nearing the end here, once again, here's a better look at the Cyber Command resources that we posted out on the internet for everybody to see. All New Yorkers can see these resources. We have ones that are under our COVID-19 cybersecurity resources. So don't be thrown off if you go to the NYC3 webpage. Don't click on the About, the Careers, go to the COVID-19 piece for this information. If you want to get a job with us, never a bad time to look for a job at NYC City Cyber Command. Cybersecurity specialists and cybersecurity professionals are really hard to find. And so please do take advantage of looking at our careers website. But if you're looking about how to protect yourself, go over to that COVID-19 tab and look at the resources there. On the right side, you see a small handout that we prepared, and it's titled Cybersecurity for City Employees Working from Home. But I will tell you that every resource and every link on there is just as applicable to a private citizen, either doing their own home business or working from home for their business. All of these resources apply. I will tell you, though, that in some cases, you're going to need to check with your cybersecurity professionals or your IT team's professionals before you'll be able to put some of these things into practice on your devices in your work from home environment. But those resources are there. Please do take advantage of them. They are there free to you. And our final slide, I think. Yep. Going back to the very top, please take away from this talk that you do have to protect yourself, but you can do it. And it is very easy to do with the resources that are available freely out there to all of us. NYC Cyber Command has that mission to help protect you. And we're doing that as fast as we can with our Secure NYC app and our webpage, where we will continue to add more content as the days go on. Also, don't be afraid of online resources, but do be afraid of ones that are just reaching out to you independently, it seems, or as if they know something about you. They more than likely don't. Legitimate sources are there, they are real, and they can provide you really good security for free or next to free for those who might be willing to spend a few dollars to protect themselves. That's all I've got, Kevin. I am open, as we have discussed, to questions at the end of the talk, sir.
And thank you so much for that great presentation. I learned so much from it. And yeah, again, thank you. That was very informative. And we will have this slide and presentation available online. There will be a thank you letter for everyone who has attended this presentation and anyone who has registered but was unable to attend. And you'll receive a PDF of the slides, and then you'll also in a couple of days receive a link for this presentation online via YouTube. So right now we do have a winter weather preparedness kind of webinar going to happen for us, but due to time restrictions, I'm going to really cut this short. In the link, in the thank you email link, there is already a YouTube presentation on winter weather preparedness and our team going in depth about what to do for an emergency, what to do during winter weather. So I'm going to breeze right through this because I do see some questions coming in through the questions and answers box, and I would really want to get to those first, since we do have Clint with us. So just to give you a quick thing of what we are and who we and what we do at New York City Emergency Management, our goal is to really help New Yorkers before, during, and after emergencies through preparedness, education, and response. At our agency, we have over 200 dedicated professionals coming from all walks of life and in various parts of the city, and they're also detailed from the various different departments of New York City, so such as the police department, the fire department, and the Department of Buildings. And yeah, we really work together to plan, prepare, and coordinate any type of emergency that may come our way for New York City. And we really want people to be prepared. That's our most important goal, is to make sure that everyone is prepared and everyone is informed. So how do we be prepared? The easiest thing is to download the My Emergency Plan at nyc.gov/readynewyork. Usually in these presentations, we would give booklets out to everyone, but given the world that we live in right now, downloading the My Emergency Plan is the best way to receive the information as quickly as possible. And within that book, you'll have 3 major steps. The steps is 1, how do you make a plan? Basically, the steps that you and your family need to be prepared and to be sufficiently prepared for any emergency that may come your way. Those steps can be as easy as 1, 2, 3, or it could be even more than that, depending on the situation that you live at home. And number 2, we have a very important step is in gathering supplies. Emergencies are different, and the way you tackle an emergency is going to be different as well. Sometimes you may have to leave your home, and that could be maybe a fire or anything that prohibits you from staying at home. Or sometimes during an emergency, you will have to stay at home, such as a winter storm or maybe a blackout. So in terms of emergencies, they come at all different ways. So we want to be prepared in gathering the right supplies or the right things that you need to be prepared for your family. That could be including a go bag for a quick and easy evacuation of your home, or a stay-at-home kit, such as extra water, food, and important supplies for you and your family to be prepared. And we want to stay informed. That's the last step, to really get the right information on how to be prepared for the next emergency. This webinar is a type of information, but also going on your phone and checking the weather is getting information and staying informed as well. And here, these are some of the winter weather hazards that may happen, such as utility disruptions, transit disruptions, down trees, school closures, health risks, and flooding. It could snow a lot one day and it could be 55 degrees the next day. And we've all experienced that, where right after a huge snowstorm, there's a lot of flooding in various parts of the city. So we really want you to be careful and make sure that these hazards are accounted for when you are preparing for winter weather. We want to always heed the travel bans, such as when the mayor or a government official has said that we shouldn't be driving from a certain time period so people can clean the streets or essential workers can get to work as fast as possible. And we want to stay informed. We want to sign up for our Notify NYC, which gives you emergency alerts. And we also have various different websites and apps that you can follow that I can get to in a little bit. We also want to keep extra supplies at home, at work, and in your car. And remember that if you are shoveling, if you do own a home, or if you do have to shovel your home, your sidewalk, or shovel out your car, to take breaks when you're shoveling. It is a really huge burden on your body. And I personally have lost friends or their parents due to people shoveling too long and too hard, and unfortunately they have passed away. So that's actually really, really sad. And when you do clean out your car, remember to clear the tailpipe of your vehicle. And we have all seen people get hurt or fallen ill because of that and not cleaning out their tailpipes of the car. One of the biggest things I want to mention here is that there is different people that remove snow in various places in New York City. The Department of Sanitation clears the streets, crosswalks, and bus stops without shelters. Department of Parks clears the sidewalks and crosswalks near and in parks. Department of Transportation clears bridges and overpasses. JCDecaux, which is a franchisee of DOT or Department of Transportation, clears the bus shelters. Basically, those are the bus stops with the overhead and things like that. And the MTA clears the entrances to subways and anything that they are in charge of. And this slide is actually one of the most important slides I want people to see. First, we have our Notify NYC, which is the city's official source for information about emergency events and important city services. These come in various different languages. There's also an app for it. And we also have a Twitter for it that comes in English, Spanish, and Chinese. And we give you live updates on whatever is happening throughout the city. We also have the Advanced Warning System, which is the emergency information for organizations that serve people with disabilities or others with access and functional needs. So if you or your organization need up-to-date information, NYC Advanced Warning System is really, really good for that population. The New York City Emergency Management Community Preparedness also distributes a weekly newsletter, as well as important alerts and updates during emergencies. And this newsletter is super, super important. We receive so much information, we give out so much information in terms of whatever emergency is coming your way, and we give tips and do's and don'ts on what to do when an emergency does happen and working with the community. We do have our traditional and social media broadcasting such as NYC Severe Weather, as well as Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And you can always check out all of our links that I will provide in the thank you email sending afterwards. And the last thing that I want people to know is about Plow NYC. That is kind of the bread and butter for the New York City Department of Sanitation. The purpose of this website is to really allow the public to, one, track the progress of sanitation spreader and plow vehicles, and two, confirm the snow designation of city streets, such as critical sector, holster, or non-DSNY streets. And these are all broken up into various different parts, and you can track and see how the city is cleaning up the streets and what's going on there during a winter storm. So I know I breezed right through this presentation on winter weather preparedness, but again, I will send a link for people to watch. It's a more in-depth winter weather preparedness webinar that we hosted a couple weeks ago if you missed it, and hopefully you'll get more information from that. And I just want to go on to questions now, and we have about a good 5 to 10 minutes for questions for Clint or myself if you guys have any. I have a question here. How to deal with emails using my email to get friends and family? Clint, I think this is a question for you. This is from an anonymous attendee. His or her question is, how do you deal with emails using my email to get friends and family? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah. So Kevin, what I think the attendee is referring to is what's called email spoofing. Mm-hmm. And many of us probably have seen this. You may see something where you actually get in your spam box emails that seem to come from your own email address. Or I think in many cases, some people have had their friends or families get a hold of them and say, hey, I got this weird ad for an air fryer from you the other day. What, are you selling air fryers now? Or did you, join some marketing company that I don't know about? And so unfortunately, what this means is that an actor, somebody out there has actively gone after your email and may have compromised it, but may not have. So there's no definitive whether or not they've taken over, because you can do, as a hacker, a very basic spoofing technique, and I won't get into how, but they can be done and they don't actually have access to your account. But what they are doing is replicating your email address such that they're trying to gain the trust of your friend or your family member because it came from, or it looks like it came from you. So there's a couple of things that can be done. The first is I'm actually going to reply in the question and answer with a link to what Google actually offers, which is an entire thing free in there about how to secure your Gmail. Many of these same things are possible with Outlook or anything else. And so feel free to look up that, but that's an email spoofing thing. Worst case scenario, as I talked about, is that your email may have been compromised. Somebody may have actually gotten into your account due to whatever reasons. You connected to a piece of Wi-Fi that was not secure, that had been hacked itself. Somehow, for some reason, somebody decided to come after you specifically, and they have been able to guess your password or hack your password. And so that's the big piece. And as you see in this one link that I just provided from Google, the best thing to do is to reset your password. But the best thing to do is reset that password and turn on that multi-factor authentication. Because while they may have access to your email and they may see that you're resetting your password, they hopefully don't have real-time access to your phone where you're going to get that multi-factor authentication code. And effectively what you've done there is by providing that second factor, you will have been able to lock them out. After that happens, I would then go in, and after I've established that multi-factor authentication, change that password yet again, because they won't see that one, because now I should have been able to lock them out from being able to see my account if it has been compromised. So that is something that I would recommend, is go through these tips. If you literally want to, there's several good articles out there. Security Boulevard has a very long article. So securityboulevard.com, if you type in email spoofing, they actually did an article on that in January of 2020 that walks through what's going on and how you can recover your account or potentially protect your account from going further. It is a big issue. It is a big thing that's out there, and a lot of people are getting spoofed, and you can protect yourself by doing some basic cybersecurity things. Hopefully that answers the question.
Awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you so much, Clint.
Sure.
And from Angela, thanks, Kevin. Always important to remind everyone to have a go bag. Yes, everyone, please have a go bag. In the link that I will send to everyone, it'll go more in depth on what a go bag is, how to prepare one, how to really use it when you do need to evacuate. Unfortunately, we just didn't have enough time today to really go into in depth about it, but that is perfectly fine. So please look out for that link. It's going to come to you. I believe the automatic link sends out in the next 12 to 24 hours. So keep a lookout on it. I'll make sure to include all the proper links so everyone can have all the right information for that.
Any other questions?
I don't see any. It is 12:30. Wow. It is almost 2:30, 3:30 already. Sorry, my time is very off right now. Oh, I do have another question. What was the email spoofing article or publication called?
Yeah, so it's Security Boulevard. Let me grab that for you real quick. And I'll post that in the chat for you, Kevin, to be able to hand people off.
Perfect. Yeah, and just to remind everyone, if you guys have any other questions, you can always email us at readyny@oem.nyc.gov. And it could be anything in terms of this presentation, you want a presentation for you and your organization, or any questions that you have about emergency preparedness, please just give us an email at readyny or readyny@oem.nyc.gov, and we'll be able to answer your questions, provide you with whatever you need, and we'll go from there. Yeah, and if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll stay on for about another minute or so because we started a little bit late as well.
Kevin, I just provided that link over to you in our chat here. I was having a hard time with the Q&A piece. If you want
perfect. So I just provided that in the chat, as well as I sent that over into the questions and answers, and you can view that link there. Awesome. Well, it seems like we don't have any more questions. I think, Clinton, you covered everything and everyone has all their questions answered already. So again, thank you, Clint, so much for joining us today about on this cybersecurity webinar. And again, thank you everyone for attending. If you guys have any other questions, please email us. And I'll stay on for a couple more minutes just so everyone can grab all the links. But thank you and have a great day, everyone.
You're all very welcome, and be cyber safe, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great holiday season.